r/ask Reddit. What's the worst thing someone tried to correct you about something you're specialized at? I studied history at uni and worked for a while as a tour guide in Prague, Czech Republic. I had a customer once on a walking tour of the city go really snarky with me because I called the river running through the city the Vltava. He declared to the whole tour that that wasn't its name. I asked him if he'd heard it referred to as the Moldau, as that was the German name for the river during the Habsburg era when German was the official language. But he said no. And was I stupid? The river was called the Danube. I pointed out to him that the Danube doesn't run through Prague, and asked if maybe he was thinking of Brno. No. He had definitely read in a guidebook that it was the Danube, and why the hell was he paying money for this tour if the guide didn't even know what the river was called? At which point another tourist in the group showed him her guidebook where it clearly said Vltava. Then another showed him a map, and another showed him another guidebook, and so on. Until the whole group had basically showed him what a twazzer he was being. He didn't apologize, of course, but at least he shut up for the rest of the tour. I'll admit, I also thought that river was the Danube, but looking at the map now I see that it doesn't even run close to Prague. I wonder how people come to that misconception. As another former tour guide, I'll venture a guess. People mistake Prague for Budapest. I'm not really specialized, but a Redditor tried correcting me about the geography of my country, Norway, claiming that it was very much flat like all the other Nordic countries, and he refused to believe me when I told him that it's the opposite and it's filled with mountains. Just, what? Denmark is the only Nordic country I'd call flat. Sure, the southern parts of Sweden, Skåne, is pretty flat as well, but that's far from the whole country. Finland is also pretty flat, at least compared to Norway. Someone thought that a country with fjords was flat? You don't understand. The whole earth is flat. I'm majoring in archaeology. I had a guy start talking to me about dinosaurs. I correct him and say it's a fairly common misconception, but paleontology and archaeology are two different fields and I'm studying humans, not dinosaurs. He doubles down and insists I need to know about dinosaurs because what do you do if you're digging up ruins and find a dinosaur fossil? Call a paleontologist? He smugly tells me I'll be useless in the field if I don't know about dinosaurs and I better start registering for paleontology courses and leaves. I still don't know about dinosaurs. My friend told me that she's taking an archaeology course next semester and was hyped to learn about dinosaurs. I told her that I didn't want to burst her bubble, but that archaeology was about people stuff, not dinosaur stuff. She said I did burst her bubble and that if I didn't want it I should have been quiet. I should have let her be excited, lol. Better than if she had asked when do we learn about dinosaurs in front of 50 classmates. You wouldn't believe the number of times people tried to tell me that people only become diabetic if they eat too much sugar and insist they are right. I'm a type 1 diabetic. Diagnosed at 14 months. Was I drinking soda from my bottles and using ring pops as pacifiers? Then? It blows me away how little people know about diabetes. Even when I was in high school people would just spew the dumbest stuff like, oh, if your blood sugar is low just take insulin. We seriously watched videos about diabetes in elementary school and you still know nothing about it. Also, people can't believe I can tell when my blood sugar is low, not significantly, despite not being a diabetic because I know the symptoms and used to check it with a blood sugar checky thing. Can't recall the actual name. One of my family members had and the symptoms only occurred when my blood sugar was low. So, Canadian lawyer here. I used to do primarily firearms law. I taught a course in firearms law at university. I've been consulted on it by lawyers. I've had judges tell other lawyers to phone me with firearms law questions. I had a law student telling me that I was oh so wrong about firearms law on a particular topic. Eventually they went and cited a particular case, which I politely advised them they were wrong about. They keep going on, talking about how just because I'm a lawyer and they're a student doesn't mean they're wrong. Meanwhile I'm just holding my tongue. Eventually someone else chimed in to be like, UHH, don't you know who that is? And the case you cited was a case he personally argued and won on. Satisfying AF. If a heaven exists I think I'd just want to have it be a never-ending series of these moments where I'm the expert. I'm a climber. People tell me to wear gloves all of the time. There is a form of climbing where gloves would be somewhat acceptable, although even then a bit questionable, but in free climbing bouldering you cannot wear gloves because your fingers actually allow you to grip onto smaller pieces of rock. I totally get you. Got asked that question too a few times and then offered the people to join me and wear gloves. One person joined me once and tried it seriously with those thin woolen gloves, and she realized she had been wrong. She is now my reference person if someone asks the question again. Oh, she used the wrong type of gloves. It will totally work if I use these gloves. Yes, I had an accident recently, ruptured tricep tendon, during a bouldering competition, and my folks are like, why didn't you wear knee and elbow pads? Why didn't you have a rope? Best part, they said you should pick up running since it's less impact. I'm a food scientist, so this happens basically all the goddamn time. One person insisting that message gives her terrible migraines. She was eating pizza at that exact time. Someone insisting that you should drink apple cider vinegar to alkalize your body to prevent diseases. I point out that's an acid. He insists it's not. Apple cider vinegar. Another person telling me how agave nectar is so much healthier and how I should replace all the sugar I eat with it. I tell her it's just a fructose glucose mix and you might as well use corn syrup. She got really mad, like irrationally mad. There is so much misinformation about food that this is basically constant for me. Acetic acid is definitely basic. Why would you think the acid is acidic? You know what's basic, Karen? Your beach ass. That's what. I'm a Harley mechanic and I swear most Harley riders have to pretend they know everything about their bike. I don't even argue with them anymore. I just tell them what's up, and if they want to debate about it, I say okay and walk away. LOL. I know a guy who built his Harley entirely or almost entirely from spare parts. His party trick is to ask other enthusiasts what year model it is. The correct answer is all of them. What does he register it as? Or is that not required? You'd register it as whatever the frame, which is the VIN stamped into it as. If you replace the frame, technically you have a new bike. But many bikes are produced for many years and oftentimes parts from other bikes from the same manufacturer will easily be swapped over between models. So let's say my bike is a frame that is a 1992 Suzuki GS500, but it has an engine from a 2004 GS500, wheels from a 2000 SV650, suspension from a 2003 GSXR 600 and bodywork from a Honda RS250. It's still technically a 1992 Suzuki GS500 even though it's a mishmash of parts. But if I were to bend the frame of my 1992 and had to move my mishmash of parts to say a 1996 GS500 frame I found for cheap, I would now, in the eyes of the DMV, have an entirely new bike since the VIN has changed. It's the ship of Thesis theory really, but the answer is that yes, as long as the VIN remains intact, it's still the same vehicle. This is why you'll see people pay huge money for rusted out husks of classic cars. They're not after the heap of crap that is the car, they're after the VIN so they can build a new car around it. My wife has a friend who studied zoology who once told me that cows can't run or jump. I grew up with them. I, more than once, had to run after or away from them after they had jumped a fence. The cows are ducking fast when they want to be. Our neighbors had a cow who learned how to kneel down and crawl across cattle guards. She roamed the area for years. Couldn't be contained. I didn't specialize on it, but when I worked at a deli in my local grocery store I had a guy come in asking for some sliced ham. I asked him if he wanted Black Forest ham, honey baked or mesquite ham. He looked at me and said it's not mesquite, it's Mystique. I pointed at the sign and label on the actual effing ham that said mesquite ham, but he still corrected me. I gave up and gave him his damn Mystique ham. This was a good 15 years ago and I'm still mad about it. My hometown is Mesquite. That cracks me up. I'm gonna start calling it Mystique. I'm a professional pastry cook. The GM at my new job tried to reteach me how to crack eggs. There's a right way to crack eggs. Crack them on something flat rather than on the edge of something. No chance of breaking the yolk prematurely since you don't have an edge to pop the membrane keeping it whole. That's what I do, and I can do one in each hand. He wants me to crack them against each other. Someone in my school, USA, tried to correct my Spanish. I'm Puerto Rican, a Spanish speaking colony of the US. And then I started talking full Spanish and he walked away. I remember a Spanish teacher from Colombia trying to correct my Spanish, and when I insisted that this is how we speak in Puerto Rico, she countered that she's got a Puerto Rican friend who doesn't speak like I do at all. Wasn't until she met my mother that she finally shut the duck up. Beach never heard of dialects before, I guess. That moment when after 20 minutes of arguing about something, the person googles it to prove you're wrong. That look on their face, the shame when they see you were right all along. Priceless. I'm guilty of this last year, but the guy said Earth has different gravity in some parts. It was so absurd that I argued I was wrong. He is a pastry chef and not a physicist, but still. People without there it constantly try and quote various laws about being able to order alcohol when out with parents. I work in a pub which is part of a chain. We're regularly tested for Challenge 21. No, I'm not handing you a pint when you can't prove you're old enough and wouldn't be willing to pay the £1,000 fine I'd receive. I work as a bartender as well and encounter this all the time. We had a party coming with 20 kids and 2 adults for a high school graduation and they threw a fit BC we wouldn't serve the 18-year-old champagne. They had all driven there. Why would any restaurant want to chance that? I'm a knife maker. A friend tried to tell me that the curve on the katana was forged in. No, it's make by differential hardness in the quench. And then tried to tell me that tempering a knife meant hardening it. I see that you actually studied the blade. Yay man. Real busy. Got a lot of blade homework today. What is tempering then? I've been lied to. Tempering is actually softening. When steel is hardened, it gets very brittle. So you temper it to a balance of hardness and brittleness. Oh boy, where do I begin? I'm a professional music producer. I've been for years. My productions get great reviews from people and are often singled out by music magazines and other industry professionals. People who know what they're doing are nothing but nice and supportive. But I get shit from salty bedroom guitarists all the ducking time. Seems like every time I produce a young band, there's this one guy there who thinks he knows it all because he watched a YouTube video. The bass knob on the amp should be set at 10. Because 5 years ago I heard that Tremonti sets his bass knob at 10. There should be no effects or editing on the vocals. Because Black Sabbath in the 70s didn't have vocal effects. Double tracking guitars? What the duck? Nirvana had one guitar player and they were the biggest band on the planet. We're recording only one take. For a short time I was teaching in a school and at the end of the year an inspector visited to go over the way I had corrected the final exams. He insisted that the answer to a particular question was not the one I said was correct. He was the one who had written the question. I argued with him that I was very sure that I knew what I was saying. I had written a thesis about this particular topic. It took a lot of effort not to punch him in the face. Well, you might have known the right answer, but he knew the answer that was supposed to be given, LOL. My art teacher in school took the yellow paint from me and drew a massive sun in the corner of my picture. I was 5, and I was already ducking brilliant at drawing suns. The cow. When a man tried to correct me on the anatomy of the vulva, vagina, uterus when I am a woman, was born a woman, and have always had female genitalia, and B, I am a midwife and not only was biology part of my degree but I have a vagina at eyesight at least twice a day. The only thing that shut him up was me saying I've been inside way more vaginas than he has. He took it very personally, despite that being my literal job. Actually, it's been proven that vaccines can cause autism. Bro, I have a PhD and work in an autism research lab. Actually, you are wrong. Facebook told me autism causes vaccines. On how my dyslexia affected me. My own dyslexia. Not the concept of dyslexia but my day-to-day functioning. I know when and how it impacts me and the difference to forgetting my glasses and being unable to see things at a distance. I've a master's degree and a lot of people refuse to believe I'm really dyslexic because I can read everything. I am a creative director. Clients always think they have better ideas and then waste my time and my team's time implementing their changes only to go back to what I originally suggested. But hey, whatever, they pay for it and I get paid, so I guess it works out for me. But it is annoying. but are you sure the logo can't be a little bigger? My other agency would make it bigger. Also, can you print out this GIF for me? Most of my job is persuading people to remove half their bullshit. Their insistence that all white space is filled, requesting that email is next to their email, telephone is next to their number etc on their contact details. It's 2019. People know what a duck-in email address looks like. My friend and I went to Dapper Day at Disney last weekend, where people dress up in vintage wear. One of Disney's photographers asked my friend if she was Disney bounding, interpreting a Disney character, and she replied that she was simply a generic dress circa 1955. The photographer began telling us how she was really much more late 1940s, and that we may have researched it, but he lived through it, and next time we should look at a picture. We are both professional theatrical costumers whose strengths lie in historical costuming, and her dress was taken directly from a 1955 catalog. Further, based on his approximate age, and being generous that he may have aged well, this man was definitely not older than 5 in 1955. That flying is a dangerous mode of travel. etc. A plane crash is news. A car crash is business as usual. I work at Domino's. One customer called asking for a really out of the blue coupon. Large 3 toppings for $5.99 delivery. I said we didn't have that coupon. The closest thing was a boost week for large 2 toppings. Carried out. Same price. He argued and said that he's been ordering Domino's for years and that we have always had that coupon. I tell him, sir, I have worked here for 2 years. We have never had that coupon. After that, he grumbled and hung up. Don't think you know better than the employees. You will always have less knowledge unless you are talking to a trainee. Not 100% the question, but I was training a co-worker the other day. I work at a gas station with an app where you can pay without a card or coming inside. It doesn't always work great, so the customer came in to pay inside and my other co-worker was dealing with them until she said, "Hey, virtual suit. The register is giving me this error while I'm trying to pay this lady." I look over there and see that the pump had been authorized via the app. And as I start explaining this to the person who has worked for the company less than a week and the customer, the newbie starts yelling at me saying, "No, that's the money I just prepaid on the pump," as she was waving the money the customer had handed her in front of my face. I continued to try and explain it to her and she continued to give me an attitude like she knew she was right. It took all my energy to not say, "You mean the money that is still in your hand that the register is not letting you put in because the pump is already authorized and cannot be prepaid? The pump that is showing someone's wiped a card at it? Beach. You've been here 2 weeks, I've been here 2 years. Don't ask me questions if you don't want the answers." What I did actually say was, after the customer had left, "Hey, could you not give me an attitude when I answer your questions? That'd be great. I've been here 2 years. I know what I'm talking about." Lifting weights is bad for you because blood vessels in your eyes can pop first. That's caused by the Valsalva movement in only extreme measures. Second, lifting weights has amazing health benefits, especially for your cardiovascular system. Just stop making excuses to not exercise. I work at a children's hospital and I have to deal with anti-vaxxers more frequently than I would like. I have a ton of family members and friends that speak English, but none of them are as proficient as I am. I've studied it for years. I've taken exams to become a certified translator, whereas they've studied it briefly in high school and kept up with movies or music. I'm still really proud of them and always encourage them in their learning. 99% of the time they'll compare themselves to me when the topic comes up, and they'll always say how much better I am at it. But then they'll ask me the difference between certain phrases, or they'll ask me which word or phrase is correct, and for some stupid reason they suddenly don't believe me. I can see it in their faces all the time. They frown a little, then say okay and then move on. A couple of times I've seen them post their mistakes on Facebook and Instagram. It's not horrible, it's just annoying as all heck. Trying to play MTG in college was a lesson in frustration. People would try to create their own rules, give cards abilities they didn't have, ruled that if you countered their card that they still get the enter the battlefield ability, and when called out for being wrong, Well, that is how I play. Not to sound like a gatekeeper, but you aren't playing Magic at that point. You are playing I win cause I say I do. Then the people that would blatantly cheat. I'm a professional videographer, and anytime I bring it up, some people say my profession is on its deathbed and that anyone with a cell phone can do what I'm doing. That's totally wrong. I also once had someone try to explain local politics to me. I'm an elected official in my hometown, so it was fun to hear them be mostly wrong about everything. I have kept fish for over 10 years. I worked at a fish store in high school, bred fish for profit, and currently work at a lab which keeps fish and other aquatic animals for scientific and biotechnology related research. I've had countless people argue with me about basic fish care both on Reddit and in real life, telling me that what I'm saying is false or that a certain fish doesn't need the space it needs, or telling me a cycle is unnecessary. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.